Okay, y'all. Today I am super excited to introduce to you another Google success story. This is Pam Hubler, and Pam, we've been connected now for a long time,
Yeah,
right?
longer than I thought we were.
And yeah, yeah. Well, and in fact, I meant to ask you this before. Did I pronounce your last name correct?
Hubler, yes.
Okay,
Yep,
okay, because you don't hear it, I see it.
that's
So,
true.
hopefully nobody's going to mispronounce my name, but I just wanted to make sure because that's the biggest embarrassment is when you meet someone, you're like, I've never heard your name pronounced. So, but yeah, no, we've been connected for a while. I think we've even met and didn't know we met because we didn't know each other back then.
Yes, I had gone to an FVTC conference and I didn't think about it until I was searching for something you sent, and I went back so far that the email was from you, and it was like, nice to meet you at the conference. And I was like, oh, and then it totally, like, I remember it. Then I was like, oh, I did. That's so funny. It was when you had a blog, and I think it may have been Edmodo, and probably it may have even been before Pinterest was like the main way that I found.
Early
It
days.
was really a long time ago. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm happy to have you here today and to
For
share
having
all of the amazing things that you're doing. So tell us all a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, I'm an instructional coach now. Had lots of different jobs before. This is my 22nd year in education. So I live in South Carolina in Charleston, and work in Berkeley County School District. And I work at Daniel Island School, which is close to my house, and it's a nice place to be where I can do instructional and technology together. I have I got my level 1 and level 2 certification as far as the teacher certification, and then went through to get the certified trainer, and that's where I went through you.
How long have you had those certifications?
I want to say I have to redo I have to do the test for level 1 in April. So, and how long are they good for? It's
Three.
3. Okay, so 3 years ago is when I started the whole wanting to do the certifications, and just because I was geeky like that, and I loved anything Google, so I figured it wouldn't hurt, to have that besides.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's awesome. And, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today. I mean, not just to me, but to the Shake Up Learning audience as well. And we have so many things that people ask about Google certification. It's not an easy thing. So, you actually have very what should I say, badges of honor, really. Like when you get those certification badges, everybody might take it for granted that that's like, oh, she just took a test or whatever, but
Right.
it's a lot harder than what most people think. And I know for me, I think I was a little bit like you. Like I am a little bit of a geek and I nerd out about this kind of stuff. And
Right.
I heard people talking about Google certification. I'm like, what is this? I must find out more, and started diving into it. And that's really the heart of where I feel like my career transformed,
Mm-hmm.
just because not just what I was doing in my career, but what I knew how to do to help teachers. So, I'm sure that you find that you're using some of your skills now too as an instructional coach, and how
Yes.
that can come in handy.
Yeah, it really is. And I think how I became interested, and I think I've mentioned it before as far as going to conferences like FETC. And my first teaching job was in Florida. So, and it used to be the Florida conference, for education and technology. Ever since I started going, I remember thinking, I loved being there. I loved learning from everybody, but I also thought, I could do this. But then I did not have the confidence as a couple years into teaching as far as, no, I don't know enough for this type of thing. But then as I would go, I just really loved the energy of it. And I love sharing resources and helping people. And then until you get the confidence knowing, I do actually know more than I think I know,
Uh-huh.
that I can help people. And that was the part that I liked. Um, anything I can do to make something easier for somebody else,
Right.
because that's what I always wanted, like, just help me do it in an easier way. And so that's what I try to continue to do.
Exactly. Now, I believe you're also presenting at FVTC coming
Yes.
up.
This year, I'm just doing a poster session. Last year, I did a skill builder, I think is what it was.
Yeah.
So, but this year, it's a poster session.
And so you've gone through that. I'm the participant. I'm
Yeah.
not good enough to be in front of people sharing this, all the way to now you're like, oh yeah, I can rock this.
Right. And I mean, there are definitely, like, when I started the first Google certification, I think I thought I was better than I actually was. Because even doing the training sessions, I was like, oh, I didn't even know that I could do that. So, it's good to have, a little bit of a check, but then also know how you can help other people. So.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll tell you, that's pretty common. And actually, something that I shared with Jacinta when I did a little video interview with her too was I went to a boot camp and felt like, oh, I know this stuff already. Like, this is going to be like a review session for me. And guess what? I didn't know everything that I thought I knew. I was pretty arrogant, and I found that when I was in the reverse, when I was actually teaching those face to face, the same thing. People come in, and my self-assessment, which I have figured out since then, was not very good at the time. And people would just rank their skill level like from 1 to 5.
Right.
And everybody thought they were an expert in everything. I'm like, what are you doing here? If you know it all, but it's like what we were talking about earlier. You don't know what you don't know. And that's true every single day when it comes to Google. I mean, I always hesitate to call myself an expert just because as soon as I do, I'm going to be presenting in front of someone, and Google's going to change because it changes all the time. And guess what? I'm not an expert. I'm going to have to figure it out. But I think that's what I've learned from the process. And of course, just with technology in general, we have to be flexible and willing to learn and adapt as it changes. And so Google's the perfect example of that.
Yeah.
So I think we kind of addressed this, but can you tell me a little bit more about what made you decide to actually, pursue Google certification?
I think I have gone between working in special education, really K through 8, and teaching in elementary school in gen ed. So first grade was really the most I taught in gen ed. And I was always that technology person that once I was in a school for a while, it was usually like, ask Hubler, she'll know. And which I like, because it's nice to have a resource that you will probably figure it out. Or I also like to say I'm really stubborn. So if I don't, I'm going to figure it out or find somebody that does. And so I think it's probably more my husband that says that. But and I think that's where it started. And then when I found out that it was a certification, and I don't know why badges have such a power, but they do. And I really was like, oh, cool, I get a little badge. And I honestly think that started using Edmodo and having like badges for different things. And it's like, I really like this badge thing. So it kind of started with that. And then when I looked at the training center, and I think the first time I went in there, I took, the first section, like you take the quiz. It's like, whoa, the first one, I actually missed something. I was like, how did I not know that? So then I started going through it, and I realized I learned so much from it that even it didn't really matter what the end result was. I learned so much during it that, it didn't hurt. It's like, hey, this is great. I get a lot of good stuff out of it, and it didn't cost me anything.
Yeah. So. Yeah. That's awesome. And I tell people all the time, especially with level 1, like, even if you don't care about the certification, but you're totally right. It's amazing what a teacher will do or a student will do to get a badge.
Yeah. Sticker, badge,
Yeah. Yeah. But even if that's not your goal, and there are plenty of teachers who have, like, what are you talking about? Like, there are plenty of people watching this right now going to comment on YouTube, what is a badge?
Right.
But at the same time, if you just learn some new ways to integrate technology in your classroom, hey, that's a win, and it's a win for your students. So I'm always a big fan of that. Now, let's dig in more into the process. So you have level 1, level 2, and trainer. So I want to make sure that everybody understands when they're listening to your responses, kind of which one you're talking about. Mm-hmm. So you were working in the Google Teacher Center. And is that what you use for level 1 and level 2 to pass those exams?
Yeah, I did that and just went through each session. Both of them, I think I started, I started one during like Christmas break, where I knew I had some time to sit and learn and take notes and then really get something out of it. And then during the summer, and then once I went through each of those, that's when I was like, well, if I want to do the certified trainer, I knew that was a lengthy process. And then listening to you, as far as sharing your resources, I knew there was a lot more to it. So I didn't want to just jump in. And I did do the things that were on the training center so I could take the test. But it was more the application process and just thinking about actually becoming a trainer, because I really did think that I wanted to, and I still do, like I really love the training part of it, professional development. And since that's probably more of a long-term goal for me, that's why I wanted to focus on that, but wanted to make sure I put in the time and the effort that I really needed to make sure I did it right the first time.
Yeah, that application is pretty daunting.
Yeah.
If you know, to a first time person to look at that, and it's so different from level 1 and level 2.
Mm-hmm.
The trainer skills assessment, like you said, that's all about, you know, training and best practices in adult learning and things like how to create training materials and those types of things. But Google, the Teacher Center really just tells you what to submit. They don't really give you any help with the application or hints on how to create that video. So, you know, that was the first course that I developed was trainer. In fact, I think you were in trainer before I had any of the other courses out. But part of the reason why I did that is because even when I teach it face-to-face, you still need so much more time to work on that application, to develop the resume, to do all of those things, to create that video. So, you know, just trying to help people not make the same mistakes that I did, honestly. And because I knew how daunting it was to look at that and to try to do it. So now, what would you say out of all of that was the most challenging out of 1, 2, and trainer?
When I was in, I think just because of the types of materials I would use and the spreadsheets, I was never great at that. I mean, even when it was Excel, anything that was presentation related was great. I got that. I'll figure it out. But the things that were sheets and formulas and all that crazy stuff, that is probably where without the training, there's no way I would have figured it out. You could Google things and try to figure out, but that was really valuable and probably the hardest. And I want to say that was even in 1, and I think, honestly, I thought 1 was harder than 2. And I don't know if it was because it was a new experience. And the time that they give you, this was actually kind of funny. I think I mentioned this, and I think I shared the blog post with you. I sat down to take the first level test on my couch. Family's watching TV. You know, we've got 3 hours to take it. No worries. Did not even get through all the content. So I had to wait, 15 days or something like that. I had to wait and retake it because I didn't make myself sit and take it seriously. So literally I locked myself in my office upstairs and said, I will be out in 3 hours. Like, figure it out.
Yeah.
So, and it was fine, but I think it still took me 2.5 hours. And it was but it was good because it was very, you get to practice it and you get to do it. So I think it's a lot more concrete, and I think you use it more in real life every day. The way that training is done, it's not just answering questions, kind of like how we want to use assessments in our real classrooms.
Exactly. Yeah, no, you hit some really important points there too, and a lot of questions that people ask. So, you know, going back to the challenging content, sheets is always, almost always the number one application that people just don't use
right
to its full capacity, if they use it at all. You know, so most teachers came from Office into the Google, the G Suite,
right.
You know, and they sort of transferred their PowerPoints over to Google Slides and things like that. But I just don't know a lot of heavy spreadsheet users that are teachers.
Right.
And I think that may be shifting as we get more data that we have to
Right.
analyze. But
Good thing or bad thing.
yeah, there's so many things that sheets can do. And so
Right.
that's actually one of the longest lessons in my online courses, just because there's so many little things. And then you mentioned the time. So both level 1 and level 2 are timed exams. You've got 3 hours, which sounds like a lot. You get those multiple choice and drag and drop questions, right? There's like, what, 10 or 15 at the beginning. That part's actually not that hard.
Right.
Occasionally I do have people who have trouble with the actual physical part of dragging and dropping and getting it to go where you want it to go. But for the most part, people tell me exactly what you told me. They ran out of time.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people don't realize this, but Google does not care if you Google the answers, right? And that's what I tell people. When you take the exam, you've got the exam open a new tab, have support.google.com open, and the training center and anything else that you want. But to think you're going to Google all the answers is absolutely impossible.
Right.
And even when you do Google it, I know there are still, when I take the exam, there's still a couple of things I'm like, not really sure about as I answer it. It's that performance-based task thing that's so authentic, right? But at the same time, it's super intricate. And so when people ask me, okay, how hard is it? Just in terms of level 1, it's like what you said. Part of it's just getting used to that whole experience, right? So doing it the first time. So level 1, a lot of people will say is harder for that reason. And that half the battle sometimes is getting in. Right? Like knowing how to open an incognito window, and you've got this webcam that's watching you and all of those things. So a lot of people will kind of freak out about that stuff. But I think that for that reason, people are not as intimidated when they move on to level 2, which goes deeper into those core applications. But then there's also a lot of lesser known tools that kind of get sprinkled into that one. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I totally agree with everything. So those were really good points. I think a lot of people will take that to heart and be able to use that to help them on the exams. But I'm like, don't go in blind. Like what you said, don't just assume. One, because you have to wait to take the test again, and it costs you money, so you don't want to waste your money. But I'm like, just at least review things before you jump into level 1. At least take a look at what's covered there. So, so moving on into trainer. What did you think of the trainer skills assessment?
That doesn't really even stick out in my mind quite as much. I think because I spent so much time in your course that the assessment part of it wasn't the difficult part of the whole process. Not saying that it wasn't difficult, because it had the same type of, where you had to do the performance-based, and but you are able to go and search for something, and I took a lot. I think the more I practiced, the more notes I took myself, screenshots and things like that. So that way, if I did have to go back and do something, I could, see how I remembered it. So I was able to do that, not too bad. And so when I took the test and I passed it, I was really excited, but then I was like, now what? And the position I had at the time wasn't where I wasn't in the classroom, but I was at a bunch of different schools. So I didn't really have the audience I needed to be able to go through the process of actually doing the application easily anyway. So I had to be intentional about what kind of professional development I did. There was just a lot of things I had to think about of how I was going to be able to show my skills and show just all the things that I did like to do, my passion, and just, there was just a lot I had to think about before I could move into the actual application part.
It is hard, and that's why, most people ask how long does it take, and there's no one answer for anybody, right? It depends what you're doing. Like you said, a lot of people aspire to be a trainer, but maybe they're not already in that position, so it takes them longer to build that resume or to find conferences to present at and things like that. So it's really subjective, and I wish there was this magic. Everybody wants this, like, yes, you will be complete in 1 month and check it off your list. No. If it was that easy, you probably wouldn't want it, right? Because you're now part of a very select group of educators across the globe, and you're connected now together. I don't know about you, but when I became a trainer, trainer was the only one available when I first got it. 1 and 2 didn't exist yet. And it totally opened doors for me in terms of teachers that I connected with, the group. Of course, I felt like my skill set was so much better after I had been through that. But I think a lot of people don't necessarily see the benefits that you get kind of outside of just the learning. But, it's like a little family that you joined.
Yes. Yeah. And it's like the resources that are available. And it's like you got accepted into a new family, like you got married or something. And it's like, oh, I have new family members.
Yeah.
It was a neat, and it did, as far as time goes, I think I did the test and then I had to wait. It was probably a good 7, maybe 8 months before I could really get what I needed in order to go through the trainings, just because the job I had I didn't have the time to put into it as far as the authentic, like, professional development and work with teachers and that kind of stuff that I could do that were Google specific. And so I really had to be more strategic as far as planning during that time. So it wasn't quick by any means. I mean, I guess depending on your position, it might be quicker. If you're already doing that type of a thing, it may not take you quite as long because you've already done these trainings. But I didn't have those, so I had to really plan.
And I tell people all the time, because 1 and 2, that's designed for the classroom teacher. That's the content. But trainer is not for everybody. And it's really hard to explain that. It's great. And like you said, everybody kind of wants that little badge. But at the same time, you got to want it. Yes. Because you had already worked so hard, and then to spend another 6 to 8 months just working on that last one. I mean, it takes dedication, and you have to keep coming back to it.
Right. Yeah. And wanting it and knowing why you want it. I knew that I wanted to be able to do more with the trainings and do more professional development, whether it was just in my school or in the district or going to conferences. So I knew I wanted to put into the effort. Now, that may have been, if I took the test and saw like what I would have to do after that, I may have stopped because, like, I'm not going to have time for this, or I'm probably not going to make time for this. So just having that realization of why do you want it?
So you were in the course, though, the trainer course that I offer online. How did it help with that process?
Oh my gosh. First of all, like the platform itself, since you use the Teachable, I love it. I wish I could use it for everything because it's just easy, user-friendly. And the way the format is, you had so much in there in an order that made sense. And then giving a lot of information that I wouldn't have gotten. It's all the extra information that there's no way you would get unless somebody already went through the process. And then the things that you learned through the process. And then just being able to, I ended up with a document where I would kind of take notes and cut and paste and like maybe some screenshots of things that I really wanted to remember. I think it ended up being like 30 pages by the time I was done, just because I would take notes and like, I have to remember to do this. So it wasn't even just for just for the application process. It was, about professional development and about like presentations and about just working with adults. And there was so much in it that just for what you would do as a trainer, that was just good prep. It was just a lot of good information, and it's always fun to listen to your voice. So.
You're so funny. I still can't stand the sound of my own voice, but I have to hear it now. So, no, thank you for sharing that. I tried to design it in a way that someone can follow, and I created that little planner because, like I said, you got to stay dedicated, because if you don't give yourself deadlines, if you don't decide when you're going to reach that goal, when you're going to create that video, it's not going to happen. Right. And you're going to sit there and you're going to watch, your other techie friends going forward, and you're just waiting. So, how long have you been a certified trainer now?
I got it in March.
Okay. So
Yeah.
just a few months.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm in that window of the first, making sure the number of trainings I do. And, right now it's like more smaller groups, but it's still kind of nice to be able to have that, have the resources and
Yeah.
obviously the practice.
And that's a good point too, because a lot of people don't realize once you become a Google certified trainer, it's not like this lifetime thing.
Right.
You have to turn in and show proof that you've delivered at least 12 Google related trainings per year.
Right.
And so that's what you're referring to, is making sure that you're meeting those standards. And you can count the one-to-one things, and a lot of people don't realize that either. But at the same time, a lot of people may not be in a position where they can even get that yet.
Yes.
So it can be one of those goals that you have to work towards. Now, has anything changed since you became a certified trainer? Any new opportunities or things that you've noticed?
I think it's more, and between being able to do this and people knowing that they can ask me questions that they just know they have somebody to go to that they know will probably know the answer. If not know the answer, know where to find it. So that's been a lot different. But then through Twitter, the connections that I've made that way, there have been a lot more. I've had a lot more connections that way. And then just the way people share. I mean, they shared a lot before anyway, but then I want to say it's more relationship building between other trainers and being able to present. I think all those things help. So it's been nice.
Well, and two, you're now in that directory.
Right.
Have you checked? Have you found your name?
I have actually, and I did, and I actually got a couple calls, and more of them were, which was kind of cool. I was like, that's a little weird, but and that hasn't really gone anywhere for me yet. But it was more question and more specific to, depending on the district or whatever. But it was still kind of nice to know that it was there as an option.
Yeah. So. Yeah. So a lot of people may not know, when you become a Google certified trainer, you get added to the trainer directory, and people can search for trainers in their area. So, and I tell people, you're not going to magically make a lot of money from that.
Right.
You do have to kind of market yourself. I don't think Google actually does a great job of sending people there either. So
right.
A lot
it
of
was
people
kind
don't
of hard to find. Yeah.
Yeah. They don't necessarily know that it's there. But the other thing, and maybe you just haven't seen this pop up yet, but in your in the trainer group, they'll often do calls for presenting at conferences like FVTC.
Right.
Or are they doing the teaching theater this year?
I'm not even sure. I haven't.
Okay.
I think that's one of those I need to be better about actually checking for things like that, so.
Yeah. So keep your eye open. So I know that because I know some people will see that and, try to pay attention. So for me, I know the Texas conference too, the TCEA conference, like I just got the email from my contacts at Google, and because I am a certified trainer
Right.
that they've had before, they're going to call me back. And so I get to present under, the Google banner, and that's a pretty cool thing to do. So you've now got that to look forward to.
Right.
As well as if you say you want to present at a Google Summit.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever presented at a Google Summit?
I did I did the ed tech, so it was not through the ed tech Google
team.
Yeah.
Well, and it doesn't have to be them, but I will tell you, with ed tech team, the summits that's how I got to present with them. Like, I don't know if anything's changed, but before they pretty much didn't look at you unless you were a trainer.
Right.
In terms of getting invites and things like that. So there's a lot of perks to it if you want it, and if you're kind of looking for it, you can definitely move outside of just your own local area if you want to. And a lot of people are fine, they just wanted it. They're not necessarily looking to do that, but it is an opportunity that some people may want.
Yeah, and that is one of the reasons why I put so much effort into it, because that's the stuff I want to do. And now it's just a matter of getting used to what all the resources are, because there's a lot, and so you kind of have to dig into things and really see what's there and what I can do, can't do, and I was actually really excited about that Camtasia and
Oh yeah.
and Snagit. Those two, I was like, what? I get that. So that I've been using those, and that was one of the things that I don't know how long that will be an option to have that, but having free, software is kind of nice to be able to use. So.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we've had that for a few years, so I think that they've been pretty consistent at giving that. So now I think you and I are going to have a conversation at FETC.
Yes, and I'm so excited. We get to
Yes,
meet in
yes.
person. I've
We're
always
gonna
seen
be,
like this.
yeah, yeah. Oh, I'm gonna hug your neck for sure. But well,
Yay.
yeah, no, we're gonna talk because I think you have you're on the cusp of some amazing opportunities. So I definitely want to talk to you about that.
Yes, it'll
And
be fun.
um, coming back to our
Mhm.
conversation though about certification, what recommendations would you make for someone else who's watching this video? They haven't done any certifications. What would you say?
Right. I do think the courses are really beneficial, and I think especially the teachable format that you use, I think it's a little bit easier than some of the other, like just going through things by yourself, because you always add a little bit of extra, or like, don't forget to do this, or this tip might help you. So I do think that those are really helpful to do, especially the trainer. I mean, the trainer one, that was, I would spend the money on that again in a second, because it's not, I mean, the other ones you may not have to spend money on, but it's worth it. I mean, it's definitely worth it in the end to be able to know that the first time you go through that, you're going to learn everything you need to know. And then some, really, just because I still go back to some of those resources for just good professional development tips and presentation. Just a lot of those things I still go back to as a resource before I create a professional development for somebody. So that I would say that definitely do the course. I actually told one of our local people, it's like, do the course, just do it. It's good.
Yeah, it's hard, and people ask me all the time, like, do I have to take your course? I'm like, no.
Right.
You can go to the Google Teacher Center, and if that's enough for you, that's great. And it's,
Right.
it's just that I have taught it so many times face to face. And even when that online piece is available, people still go to face-to-face boot camps.
Right.
I won't even teach I had a request the other day, and I'm like, I don't teach it face-to-face anymore. It's too hard. It's too
Right.
hard to teach, and it's too hard to get everybody up to the same level by the end. It's so much content, especially for that level 1 and level 2.
Yeah.
I don't know how people could possibly teach both of those together. So, and I tell people all the time, there is absolutely no way I could tell you everything in a face-to-face training that I can put in an online video that you can access anytime you want. So
Right.
like you said, having it to go back to, I was like, this has to be in a more differentiated format, because, you walk in with people who have barely even learned how to log into their Google account, all the way to someone like you who could stand up and
Right.
teach it. And so I'm like, okay, y'all, how do I get you all to the
Yeah.
same point at the same time? And it's not easy as a trainer, as a teacher. Anybody would know that. So,
Yeah.
but no, I was so glad that we connected and have connected now in so
Yeah.
many different ways.
Yeah.
And I want to tell everybody that you're actually a community manager in the Shake Up Learning Facebook group.
Yes, I
So
love it. It's so fun. I
she's
love getting to talk to people.
yeah, Pam is officially part of the Shake Up Learning team, which I was very excited to announce. And she's a very active member in that Facebook group. So always helping me, because it grows so fast. One person cannot do it all, right? It takes a
Yes.
village.
Right. Oh my gosh, I think you've got like 8,000 people or something like that in there now, and it's nice to have the conversations going, and getting to, and I like to find like the Twitter handles too, so that way you can kind of have both platforms to be able to have conversations. And I'm special techie, by the way, so
Yes. And that
that's
was what I was
my
getting to. So tell people where they can find you. So your blog, your Twitter handle.
Yes, my blog is spedtechgeek.com, and that's always been my combination of my special ed background and my techie background. So, and even though I don't teach special ed anymore, it's always still a place in my heart, especially for, I mean, because the way we differentiate now, it doesn't really matter if you're special ed or not. Those strategies work for everybody.
Yes.
So spedtechgeek.com is my website, and then I have on Twitter, Special Techie, and it's Special Techie, Techie. And then Instagram, Pam_edu coach. I don't use that one that much as much as I'd like to. That's been new because I've had to go to where teachers use it more. And a lot more people use Instagram than Twitter. Sometimes I say Twitter and they're like, no, I can't. But that's why I do the training for Twitter too. So
Yes, yes. Well, and I have to ask you
yes.
to talk about what's behind you. It says
my pirate.
Yeah.
Yes, this is my, okay. Now the original intent was for me to actually write what it stands for, but apparently that's looked down upon. So right now it just says pirate, and I have to come up with an alternative way to be able to spell out what each one is.
Okay.
And all my books are at home, but I have a serious Amazon problem with my Dave Burgess books.
Yes, if you follow Pam, you will see she tweets all kinds of pictures of the stacks and stacks. She's a super pirate fan, and I think do you have the whole collection?
I have so many of them. I'm not sure which ones I'm missing, and every time I see a new one, I was actually looking at my stack now to see what I have even with me. Of course, I always have yours, so I've got my.
Oh, look at you. I did not pay her to do that, y'all.
No. Oh my gosh. This thing is always in my bag. So yes, but I have a lot of them, and I learned something great from every single one of them. But yes, so pirate, that's my thing. And I try to get more people on there.
Pirate Pam. I think someday your book may be in that stack.
That would be amazing. I would love to do like one of the picture books. I think that would be a fun one to do.
I think you can do it. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I'm sure everyone watching this video is going to be very, very grateful, and probably reaching out to you as well, just to ask you questions and maybe bring you some new connections as well. Love connecting with other educators, and that's how we met. So thank you so much for your time today, and I guess I will see you very, very soon. We'll be talking online, but I will see you in just a few months. So thank you.
In January, and I've gone to this conference. I can't even tell you how many times I've gone. I mean, like I said, this is my 22nd year in education, and I've gone to FVTC for more than half of those years. So this is my annual, and my best friend comes with me. So we get to geek out for a couple days together. So
I love it.
It's a lot of fun. So
I love it.
I'm so glad I get to meet you in person there. So that'll be really fun.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Pam.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.